the coach. His name was Dustin Felder. Because remember, it was an acting class I had never done. So he was like, stand up comedy is your into the industry.
Of all the teachers, I said the one guy that really made an impact that was palpable and tangible and gave me a different outlook was Bill Hall.
My dad, he's been in law enforcement for over 20 years. He taught like the 4 rules of gun safety.
It was always the Mets, but like right out of the gate, it was Carter and Keith Hernandez. Those were the guys.
I just want to say thank you. I've been watching since I was a kid. Like I watched the Chappelle Show, and we would recite that shit all the time.
It surprised me how much I enjoyed. I coached my daughter's softball team this year. It was one of the best times of my life.
I dedicated this to Angela because I would not have done any of the stuff that I've been doing had it not been for her.
What's up? Welcome to episode number 145 of the People We Love podcast. I'm Adam Choid. If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other entertainment types, creative types, about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who've influenced them, supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com, at People We Love Podcast on Instagram. Definitely follow, subscribe on YouTube, whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. That is definitely appreciated. I am at Adam Choid on Twitter and Instagram, adamchoid.com for all my personal stuff and other projects I'm working on. I actually have an upcoming comedy show that I produce here in Sherman Oaks in California at the Pineapple Hill Saloon. It is October 21st with Maddie Chimbor as your headliner, Misha Paulin from the Jimmy Dore Show. And today's guest of this podcast is actually on the bill as well, comedian Chris Keene. Watertown, Massachusetts own Chris Keene, who's on the upcoming comedy show, as well as my guest today, like I just mentioned, is a half Armenian former musician of the band Mean Creek. And he tells me all about how playing music and writing songs helped him establish an identity growing up. Always a creative person, music led to acting, and that led to stand-up comedy, and we get into it all. Music, comedy, and a little politics too. And Chris tells me all about his admiration for the legendary late comedian, Bill Hicks. Let's just get started. Here's Chris Keene. Okay, so it's good to see you today, Chris Keene. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is
great.
For
sure. How are you holding up during whatever year this is?
It's been a good year. I've done a lot of work and made a lot of changes in my life. And why does this sound like a therapy session? I don't know. But I've made a lot of. It's been a good year. I don't know. I've done a lot.
It's funny because it's sometimes.
I like how we just talked about how I'm awkward and shy, and we're off to a great start.
No, that is a great start. I thought that because it does sometimes can feel like a little bit like a therapy session, but I didn't ask any therapy type questions. It wasn't very therapy centric. You're the one who took it in the therapy.
Yeah, I'm just mentally ill, so that's what.
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. You're in your.
I hate looking at myself. How do I just not see me? Can I just see your beautiful face? Do I have to?
Probably.
No,
well, the camera move me more towards the camera. That's what I do. I tend to move you towards the camera, so I feel like I'm looking towards. I don't know.
I'm a moron. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, this is definitely off to a good start now. Certainly. But yeah, why don't we get into it? Because there isn't. Like I was telling you before, there isn't too much about you on the internet, so I'm looking I'm curious about a little bit about your background and tell me about where you grew up and maybe family and siblings and just start at the earliest memories.
Okay, I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I have no siblings. Yeah, man, I don't know. I grew up there. I played music for a long time. I was in bands, in a band for like 10 years that toured and put out records and things like that. I basically did that until I started doing comedy. I don't know. What do you want to know, Adam?
Oh yeah, well we're gonna unwrap it, unpack it, like like elementary school. We can start there. We
Oh
don't
wow.
have to, we don't.
Well,
I go back further because sometimes people remember like shit when they were 3 or 4. It's mostly sounds or sights or things they saw. Like I always say how I think people like when they were 8, they remember a photo of them when they were 3, but they don't remember when they were 3, but they think they remember when they were 3, but they're just remember looking at a photo. Anyway, but yeah, so tell me about elementary school age, Chris.
Elementary
what
school.
was he into? What were you a good student? Were you rambunctious? I want to like build up into how you got into music and all that.
I was a big fatty. I was a big fat ass.
Yes, it's in your act.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. That started in elementary school. So yeah, that's mainly what I remember, just being hefty. But
why?
No,
why were you so hefty?
I don't know, man.
Food is good. I mean,
yeah, I was eating bad things. I don't know. I was like 8. I don't remember what the fuck I was doing, but yeah, I don't know. I just I was always like the fat kid in elementary school, middle school, and then in high school I lost a bunch of weight. But yeah, that how that kind of thing just becomes like how other people see you. So that's I don't know.
Right. That was probably kind of hard because kids will find anything to make fun of you, let alone the most obvious thing that they.
Yeah. That definitely made me feel odd. I don't know. I was a nerd. I was into comic books, and I got into music pretty young too. I was into all that stuff.
What were you listening to, like music-wise, even when you were like that young, elementary school, if anything?
Well, the first music I ever heard was Michael Jackson, probably. My mother had his records, and I remember listening to his records and jumping on a trampoline. I had a little trampoline. This is when I'm like, 7, 8 years old or something. But I would just like put on Michael Jackson and listen to that. But after that, I got into rock music, things that were big at the time, like Nirvana or Smashing Pumpkins or things like that.
I have a similar memories of like Michael Jackson and like the Bad album being like one of the first cassettes, if not the first cassette I ever
yeah, that was the record. That was the record. I listened on repeat. Like I loved it, and it's funny. Like I don't know. I was just fascinated by it. It's still. I mean, I still love his music. I don't know. I mean, I think he's one of the greatest ever. People don't like him because he maybe touched kids. I don't know what happened, but that aside, his music is amazing.
This always comes down to like, can you separate the art from the artist? And sometimes, and we all do, and sometimes we don't. But I think the key is to hate other people who disagree with you on things related to this topic. That's all that really, and judge them. You listen to Michael Jackson, that's okay, but you watch a Woody Allen film, you're a terrible person. Or
I also love Woody Allen. I also love Woody Allen movies. So I don't know. Pedophiles just get me. I don't know what it is. We just have a good connection. I don't know what that says about me. I was wondering if that's the key to being talented. Maybe you have to touch kids and then you become, talented. Because look at all these guys.
I title all my episodes, so-and-so loves comedian Dave Chappelle, so-and-so loves blah, 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 blah. So is this going to be Chris Keene loves Woody Allen and Michael Jackson? It's almost
just say Chris Keene loves pedophiles. That'll be great.
No, I got to be. I mean, I would rather use the people's names, but it's almost like such a troll move in some way. By me and by you, that I would almost consider it, but I'm hoping we find. Man, maybe you mentioned Smashing Pumpkins in some bands in addition to Michael Jackson. But I remember jumping on my bed and listening to the Bad album and all that stuff too. And I got into Woody Allen films like more like in college and when I became an adult as well. I think I have kind of like not grown tired, but I'm not as excited to watch some of his stuff lately. But yeah, I guess if something's on, like there are classics, certainly.
For Woody Allen, yeah. I mean, I love Annie Hall. I love Midnight in Paris, Hannah
Same.
and her yeah, like Hannah and her sisters is great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones. Were you
a lot.
watching these movies as a kid, or did you discover like Woody Allen
No.
as an adult? Because I didn't understand. I remember I caught glimpses of Woody Allen movies as a kid, but I was like, what is this? But later on, I was like, oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I got into it. I got into those movies, I think, as an adult. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, they're really great. His stand-up is interesting too.
Right. I've heard some of it.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Getting old is weird because like all your heroes are either dead or they're fucking weirdos. You know what I mean? You find out some sick shit about them or something. Like,
right.
You end up. I don't know. I feel like I don't have any heroes anymore. I don't have any idols anymore.
I'll go through a list of people that I follow, and I'll send you some because I do know some good people that are not heroes but role models. Is there a difference though? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I found some decent people, believe it or not.
Well, that's good. That's good. I just have I feel like having idols of any kind is a bad thing. I don't know.
Yeah, idols it just sounds weird. That sounds like they're treating someone like they're a god or something. But heroes and role models, if you put a description before the word idol, you're my guitar idol, you're my comedy idol, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're probably better off sticking with like Jesus or Muhammad or one of these like religious type
there
things.
There you go. Yeah. By the way, I hate everything that has occurred on this podcast so far. Can we just erase all this?
No, this is all great.
I was just kidding about the pedophile.
Oh.
I hope everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it was such a troll. Obviously, that was kidding around. But like, if we were to present it as loved Woody Allen and Michael Jackson, people might laugh at that.
I do love their art. I love their art.
I know. I again, like I listen to more Michael Jackson than I do watch Woody Allen films lately, or watch Cosby. Cosby, you can't even find anymore.
Yeah, I never was huge on Bill Cosby. I mean, I watched him as a kid, but
yeah,
I never was like a huge fan.
It was a watchable show on reruns, like when it was on like Nick at Night and stuff.
And I remember
like that.
watching his stand-up when I was a kid.
Yeah. So what about like middle school music wise? Were you starting to get into comedy and things like that?
That's when I started playing in bands and stuff. I got into like punk rock music.
Guitar?
Yeah, I played guitar and sung in bands my whole life. And so middle school is when that started, and I got into a lot of punk rock music and started playing in punk bands. And I did that most of my like, yeah. I mean, my bands when I was older were more like rock than punk, but yeah, that's when all that started.
Did you have a favorite band around that age, 12, 13?
Oh, I mean, when I was like 12, like Green Day is what got me into. That was the gateway into, finding out about all of the old punk bands and everything. But they were like, the album Dookie came out, and that, that was huge at the time. And
sure, I recall.
Yeah, it just opened. I don't know. It introduced me to all this other music, and all these underground bands, and then all the old punk bands from the 70s and 80s. Yeah. So I got into all that, played in bands, and then I loved music, so that's what I wanted to do with my life. So that's what I tried to do, and I don't know.
What is it you love about music? I mean, that's kind of a very vague question because I do the same, but
I think like it was a form of expression that I liked a lot. Like it was a way to express things you're thinking and feeling in a way that maybe other people can relate to or something like that. It also like kind of can give you an identity or a sense of who you are. So those things resonated with me about it because at the time I didn't really have any of that. I was shy and awkward and didn't really have a sense of self at all.
The thing is, just listening to talk like that is that like no one does when they're 10, 11, 12 for the most part. Like everyone's like really like where some people are still looking for themselves and trying to figure a lot out. But like at that age, like nobody knows anyone. So that's that's something you discovered probably later, or like looking back. But like, yeah, subconsciously, I'm sure you can feel that. I mean, like
when I was a kid,
doing these things for you.
Well, at that age, there's like cliques of people. At least when this was the '90s, so I mean, things are probably different now. But there are cliques like jocks, nerds, freaks. You know what I'm saying? Was that like that for you growing up?
Of course, yeah. No, I think we're probably about the same age, or roughly the same age. But yeah, I remember the '90s and definitely cliques and not fitting in with any of them.
Right.
I get the Jews. Was that a clique? Even they wouldn't have me. So some of them would, some of them were too nerdy. I don't know.
What is your ethnicity, by the way?
Eastern European, Jewish, Ashkenazi, like 97%.
Okay, all right.
You're Armenian because I think I saw the flag.
Yeah, I am.
In one of your social media. Is your
your
real name?
Huh?
I was gonna ask, is your real name Keene, or is it something much longer?
Oh, I'm half Armenian, so my mother's last name is Markarian. It's Armenian. She's Armenian, but my Keene is my father's last name.
Gotcha. You were gonna say something else.
Oh, I just moved to Glendale because I'm Armenian, so that's what Armenian people do.
Now, I know you're joking, but when you say the word "because," is that actually true? You were joking, but I think it could be true.
I did just move to Glendale, but
I know that's true. But is it because you're Armenian, or
no? I was just kidding about that.
It just worked out. It just worked out that way.
Yeah, it is. It is nice to see Armenian people, though, because actually that reminds me of childhood. Since we're on the childhood topic, because I grew up in Boston in a town called Watertown, which is like right next to the city of Boston, and it's a very Armenian town that I grew up in, much like Glendale is here in Los Angeles. So it reminds me of the town I grew up in. I see a lot of people that like remind me of like family members. You know what I mean? Like. It's like almost uncanny, like seeing people that remind. I don't know if you ever see people that remind you of like your relatives when you were younger or anything like that. But.
Yes, there's. It's a funny thing. I'll give you a quick example because something jumps out at me. Is I watched the Jets football team at a bar, and there's like other Jewish guys from New York there, and I happened to not go to one of the guys' houses, and he's invited me to watch some games. It just hasn't worked out. Like over the years, I just haven't been there. And then he turns to me at the game last weekend or 2 weeks ago, and he goes, "You never come to my house. How come you haven't been to my house? When are you going to come for the AFC title game?"
That's a very Jewish voice you got there.
Right, and he's coming out that way too. I'm like, "Are you my uncle or something? Are you my related to me?" So that did remind me of that. Tell me,
where in New York are you from?
Long Island.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I
was gonna say Dix Hills out in Suffolk. Used to live in East Meadow, also in Nassau. So yeah, long.
Okay, I have a friend that lives in Long Island, but I forget where now. Yeah.
So you like the town, Watertown?
Watertown. Yeah, I mean it was a suburb, a small suburb of Boston. I mean, it was fine. I don't know. I don't really like Boston. That's why.
Why not?
I don't know. I just feel like I didn't relate to much there. I never felt like I related to much there.
But Watertown you like because it's
I mean, it was a fine town to grow up in. It's just typical suburb of Boston.
So many people I talk to have like that kind of reaction about whatever their suburban town they grew up in. They're like, won't say anything really bad about it or won't say anything amazing about it. It's just like, it was fine. Isn't that really the American dream, just to say that you grew up somewhere and be like, yeah, it was fine?
What's funny, yeah, I mean, one thing that's funny is I feel like you don't realize how good you have it when you grow up in a, and when you grow up in like a place like that, like you actually have it really good. You know what I mean? I don't know, just to grow up in a normal town in America where, I don't know how to describe what I'm talking about right now.
No, it's making perfect sense because and just like it gives you some perspective looking back, just like we're joking around saying like, oh, our experience in suburbia, it was fine. But
Yeah,
but what that means, it was not fucking insane. Like you're growing up in like the hood or somewhere that's more. There's places that are not the hood in the United States that you think you're in a third world country. Like it's messed up. So like just to be able to say that something is fine is it's
right.
It means gratitude.
Yeah, if you just grew up in a boring town, even like whether it's middle class, lower middle class, whatever, even that is like you're insanely lucky. You know what I mean? Because of what you just said, like and people take it for granted. I think I took it for granted. I think I don't think I understood that that was lucky.
Yes,
I do now.
How many people were in your graduating class in high school?
Not a lot. I want to say like 200. Is that a lot? That's small, right?
I feel like that's on the smaller side. That's actually what it was in my high school, just about. But we had 2 high schools in our district, so that made it more if you combine those. But it's all different. Like some people are like, I had 20 people in my graduation. I'm like, what? But yeah, it's all depends on the size of your town. So what about so high school? You were playing music, and were you a good student also?
Oh, I was a terrible student because all I cared about was music. Like I knew I wanted to be a musician and play music, and that's all I cared about. I mean, I graduated high school, but I didn't really put much effort into it because I was so focused on writing songs and playing music. I did great I had some music classes at the public high school I went to that I did well in, but the other ones I didn't do that great in.
What did your parents think of like this prioritizing music over academics?
I mean, they would have preferred if I was paying more attention to school and stuff. I mean, like they did make me, like for instance, like if I screwed up in school, like I couldn't have like band practice, if I missed school, I couldn't do it. Like if I got too bad grades, so they had rules and things to try to get me to be smarter. But of course I was an idiot. So
that's kind of like my parents a little bit.
Yeah, they were supportive, but they tried to also make me not be a moron. So.
Yeah, they don't want to let that you fuck up too much.
Yeah,
I don't think you were as dumb as you're making yourself out.
I think I was, but I think I fucked up.
Not that public school or school in America is not necessarily the greatest measure of intelligence anyway, but were you?
No, I mean, that's the other thing is I was like, what does any of this have to do with anything? You're learning shit that has nothing to do with life.
I said that a lot to my mom. I remember growing up, I would be like doing homework that I didn't want to do. I'd be like, when am I going to ever use this in my life? And like that, she just didn't want to deal with me.
Yeah. I mean, understandably, I should have done better in school. I should have went to college, and I didn't ever went to college or anything. So
yeah, that was my next question. Like junior, senior of high school, what were you thinking? Where were we headed?
I just wanted to play music and play in bands, which is what I did most of my life. The only school I got into was a music school called Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Yeah, that's prestigious.
Yeah, it's a good school, I think. I mean, I think some like John Mayer went there. I think, but I got in, but I didn't end up going. It just seemed ridiculous to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars to do that when I can just write songs and play music on my own. That's what was my thought process at the time.
Sure. And that's what you did.
That's what I did. Yeah. And, my band did some really cool things that most people don't get to do. We toured around the country and toured to Europe and put out records.
What was your band? It's
a band called Mean Creek. Yeah. I don't know. like I said, we got to do things that a lot of people don't get to do. I mean, obviously it wasn't a huge success, but I'm grateful for what we did get to do.
You have a Wikipedia page. Isn't that everything? Isn't that you're you guys may no, this is cool. This is how you find information about Chris Keene. You got to search Chris Keene, the musician, not necessarily Chris Keene, the comedian. The musician. You just put in more years as a musician. Yeah.
Yeah. When that stopped, I started trying to find other things to do with my life, and like having a creative outlet is important to me because I've had it my whole life and I needed something like that. Music was always it, but when that stopped, I just wanted to try something different. So I started doing comedy. Yeah, I started doing comedy. The first time I did it was in 2018. So like 5 years ago, but COVID fucked me all up where I stopped doing it for like a year and a half. So I've only really done it for like 3.5 years consistently.
Gotcha. Well, tell me a little bit more about like, I guess your band, because that's what you were doing before comedy. Like, and what were the band's like major influences, would you say?
The band that I was in for most of my life, probably the major influences were things like REM, The Replacements. I don't know. Honestly, a ton of different music, from punk to rock to, I mean, you name it. Like, but it was like an indie rock band.
Yeah. How did you learn to play guitar? Like, is it like, yeah, how did you learn? Tabs or lessons or
tabs? I took lessons for like a month or two, and then I just taught myself from there on. Yeah, tabs, you can learn how to play other people's songs, but I just kind of taught myself and wrote my own music and things like that. I like doing my own things, you know what I mean? Like,
I could tell.
Yeah, okay. How can you tell? What do you mean?
No, I don't know. It just seemed like an independent.
Yeah,
thinker.
I don't. That's what I liked about stand-up comedy is you can just write your own shit and go perform it. You don't have to ask permission from anyone. You don't need anything. You just write it and go do it. That's what I want to do. I want to make my own stuff and go do it. I don't want to have to. I don't know. And I like teaching myself things and doing things my own way. I don't like. I never really liked school. You know what I mean? I just like doing things on my own. I don't know why.
Up until the point where you first tried like stand-up comedy and then started to do it regularly. Obviously, you did say that like you were starting to get into comedy, you know, even as a kid growing up. But was it like a slow burn, realizing that that comedy was something you wanted to do more and more, or was it always like in the back of your mind? And what comedians were you watching like over the years? Who were your favorites that inspired you to want to get into this?
I always loved comedy. Even when I was a kid, I'd watch like Steve Martin. I loved Steve Martin as a kid. When I was in bands, we'd listen to stand-up comedy a lot on tour. It's a really good thing to listen to in a van on tour. You know what I mean? So we'd listen to like Bill Hicks a lot. He's probably my favorite comedian. Mitch Hedberg we'd listen to. Like, we'd just listen to a lot of stand-ups in the band. But what happened with stand-up is I stopped playing music and I wanted to do something different. I was studying acting. I was like taking some acting classes, and someone said, "Oh, you know what'll make you a better actor is if doing stand-up comedy can make you a better actor." And I tried stand-up for that reason. And once I tried it, I was like, "Why? I'd rather do this. You know, this is what I'd like to do because." This, you're like writing and producing your own shit. You can just go do it on your own. Like, you're not.
What was it about that? Did this person who gave you advice say that like was like what would you get out of stand-up comedy from an actor's perspective? Like, how does it help? Is it like improvising?
I don't even remember. I just remember someone saying like, "Oh, that will make you a better actor if you go do." maybe just performing in front of people.
Yeah, it can. I know. I'm sure it can only help, but I was just curious if there was.
Which is funny because like stand-up comedians are notoriously bad actors. You know what I mean? You hear that all
some
the
of
time.
them.
Yeah, you hear that all the time. But yeah, after I did stand-up, I was like, the acting just seems stupid because like with acting, you're not even like writing your own stuff most of the time, and you're also like waiting for other people to give you opportunities and for people to give you permission to do things. First of all, like writing and performing my own stuff was always important to me. So, and you don't have to wait for anybody's permission to do anything.
Right. I've talked to a handful of comedians who just echo the exact sentiments that you're describing right now. It's like that you don't have to wait on anyone else in the way that you have to do. And there's less in your control when you're pursuing acting. Tell me about Bill Hicks. Like, do you remember specific bits or what about him jumped out to you?
I loved all his social commentary. I loved that he was like fearless with the things he talked about. I mean, he has so many bits that stuck out. Stuff like he'd make fun of like 80s pop music that he hated and like how he thought music had lost its soul and like, you know, that he missed like Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and stuff from the 60s. And I could relate to all that. But also a lot of his political satire and things like that I liked. I don't know, I don't know. I guess that's why I love him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he said it. I appreciate that. Very, very, very cool.
I think he pointed out like a lot of like just the dumbing down of America. You know what I mean? And some people find him like pretentious or something. You know what I mean? Or like
really,
or like that he's like a know-it-all or he's talking down to people or
they deserve to be talked down to.
No, yeah, he just called out a lot of bullshit in our society, and he, you know, like talked to like how stupid we all are, and I don't know. Is
there anyone doing that today? You do it in a little bit in your own voice, I think.
I like talking about what's going on and just pointing out things that I think are silly or wrong, or I mean, George Carlin did the same thing. Those were always the comedians I liked a lot, is people that pointed out, made you question things in society. That's what George Carlin, Bill Hicks, even Patrice O'Neill did that sometimes. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. My brain.
I think the real specific thing that you said that jumped out at me, though, is that, especially with Hicks and even Carlin, is that they did point out the dumbing down of society.
Right.
And I don't know if we're getting a lot of I guess those guys are the top tier, brilliant guys at it, so they stand out. But I wish we had more people that were doing that, because society, I think, is getting significantly more dumb for all these.
Oh,
people.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know who's doing that today. Today is so different, though, because now it's like everything's like about sides, political sides. It's like people listening to this, I don't know, it depends on what your ideology is. You might be like, yeah, people are getting dumb. It's those Trump supporters, they're dumbing down America. You know what I mean? And then someone on the other side will be like, oh, it's these woke retards. Like
yeah, and the comedian might not necessarily even identify with a side, or most people are nuanced and have nuanced views, but the powers that be benefit from having sides. And
well, that's the sad part, is
divide and conquer, all this stuff.
Yeah, no one or I shouldn't say that. A lot of people don't see that, I think. They don't. That's how I see it, at least. And maybe I sound like an asshole, but yeah, I think that the people really running the show, they want us fighting, obviously, and we're caught up on a bullshit like gender pronouns and all this other garbage while they run off with all the money. You know what I mean?
Right. Essentially, that's what's going on, and that's actually the maybe the number one question I kind of had for you, even, is like coming into this conversation, is how did you arrive at these conclusions? Did you always like feel this way about politics? Did your views evolve? Is there a political event that red pilled you, so to speak? Like, tell me about like your political
It's
evolution.
such a ridiculous thing, red pilled, because I don't feel like my core beliefs have changed much. Because red pill, doesn't that mean you're like right wing or something?
Not necessarily. It means more like you view what corporate media presents to us as a controlled narrative that serves an elite group of people. That's
exactly what it is. And I don't know how anyone could even argue that fact.
No, but they do, and they ignore it, and they can't see past those sides that you're describing to realize that everyone has an agenda. Everyone's creating propaganda. Depends on what is the stuff that there can be good propaganda. Like you create good propaganda, I would argue.
Good propaganda. Does that exist? Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, when did you personally like come to the conclusion that like, yeah, it's all bullshit, basically?
Well, I always, to some extent, believed these things, especially growing up listening to Bill Hicks and George Carlin, although for their time, they were probably left wing, that
right.
Was left wing at the time. Now, if Bill Hicks existed today, I don't know if he would be left wing. I can't imagine him being on board with a lot of the stuff, you know what I mean? Especially the anti-free speech stuff that I feel like goes down.
It's more like other people decide like what you are. Like, people think Joe Rogan is like this right-wing person, but he supports all like leftist views and government programs and like all this kinds of
everything's
left-wing views.
What politics meant in the 80s and 90s is, I feel like, totally different now. That's why I feel like it's weird when people are always doing this with George Carlin, especially. Each side takes bits from him, and they're like, "See, he's on my side." You know what I mean? He was just calling out bullshit all around. Like, he wasn't interested, I don't think, in political affiliations.
No, he never really did much of that I recall. Like, active. Obviously, like we know he identified more on the left, especially on certain issues. But for him, it was more about like, and this is from his stand-up. It's just like, I forget how he described it, but just like watching the train wreck, watching the shit show, being entertained by the circus that is, being on this planet in this country, and all that.
But left then is different from left now.
Right. Donald Trump is a 90s Democrat or an 80s Democrat, essentially.
That's funny to think about.
I did not come up with these. These are not original thoughts, but nonetheless.
But yeah, I mean, George Carlin is famous for, what is it, 7 things you can't say on television or whatever. Like,
right.
And like, he made fun of woke people before that was a thing.
Political correctness.
Like, I mean, he also wasn't a fan of punching down in comedy or whatever. I've heard him talk about that too. So, I mean, I don't know.
What does that mean, punching down in comedy?
Well, to him, from what I heard him talk about, is the clip that I think gets around the internet is him talking about Dice. Have you seen that?
This is an interview with George Carlin about Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, and he was just saying, like, he thought comedy should be attacking people in power, not punching down on like people that are maybe downtrodden, whether it be minorities, women, etc. And he felt maybe that Dice's character was doing that. That's just what I heard him say. You know what I mean?
It's funny because that's in a lot of ways what the left does now. Honestly, like left-wing people, they punch down at middle America, essentially. It really and it turns me off a lot, to be honest with you. It's not inclusive. I think comedy can be inclusive, but also do what you're accomplishing And what I like to see is like the challenging authority or poking fun at authority in some kind of meaningful way.
Yeah, it's all so convoluted now. And it's funny, like they don't even look at Middle America as a group they probably look at them as like people in power or something, or like the bad guy. Do you know what I mean?
There's such an otherizing demonization, and that's really dangerous stuff. Like we could talk about a lot of, what leads up to something like a, Nazi Germany. Not saying America's there, but like you can see like little elements of like just such otherizing of other people and thinking they're.
Dude, I mean, some of the narrative during COVID was insane. The way you talk about people who are like the pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Of
you
course.
Know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know, like comparing shit to the Holocaust, that gets I don't love doing that.
It's not the Holocaust is what people compare it to. That's what they want. That's what people, how the words are twisted. But what it is leading up to what led up to that rule, that led up to that world. And it's the demonization of people who look differently than you, act differently than you, have a certain thing a chemical inside them that you don't like.
Yeah, or just think differently. Think differently. Like that's.
I don't give a shit enough about what other people think to hate them, if that makes sense.
I mean, people don't really grasp the live and let live theory much, or a lot of people don't. I feel like.
Yeah. When's Jesus coming back in the spring? Is that coming? We need lessons from this man.
That would be nice. It is crazy how convoluted everything is. Where like, I don't know, man. Like, like a lot of left wing people, especially, they talk about punching down, maybe, but like a lot of their narratives dominate everything, whether it be like the news media, Hollywood, entertainment industry. The government's on board. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
you are preaching to the choir, of course.
Yeah, it's like, who are you attacking? You guys are. This narrative is running everything, and
right. They're not. They think they don't even use this term anymore. But for a minute, they call themselves the resistance or resisting.
Yeah, who are they resisting?
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't expect you like people. I've heard this joked about too. Is that like some of the younger generation is some of the most compliant, people who bend the knee to the government in every order. Like, and that's like surprising that like an older generation, such a little bit older like us or whatever, millennials or whatever the hell we are, is more like, more likely to challenge authority or the government or question things.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell that happened. I don't know how people got so trusting in media and in the federal government. It is very odd. And to be meanwhile calling themselves the resistance, it's very, very odd. I feel like that started with Trump. I don't know, Trump like broke people's brains, and this has been said a million times.
Yeah, well, the problem is the media. I think is the corporate media and the leftist media that they did the worst thing possible to build Trump up to be some sort of unique evil and turn him into Satan, and it's really like it really is a form of mind control in a lot of ways. This could be the episode that gets taken down and gets me.
As long as we assure everyone the vaccine is safe and effective, we'll be
fine. Right. I've been meaning to make a Rumble account.
Okay. There you go.
I made one. I've been meaning to upload to it, is what I'm saying.
Do you just put it on YouTube, or what do you
I do just do YouTube, but there's been good arguments people have been making to me to just like get on Rumble as a backup for anything. Like,
yeah, you should. I mean,
yeah, it's a crazy world because like my podcast is not like the most political or controversial thing on the internet. But like, if I fucking tweet the wrong thing, how do I know? Like, oh, we got to take like, I mean, we could get into it, like just talking about like what's going on with like the Russell Brand stuff. I haven't followed it closely, but like just to demonetize and attack and have this coordinated attack on this guy before he's even like faced a trial or anything like that. And
It's
before
crazy.
anything is known.
It's nuts. I mean, it's over accusations. They're not, like you said, he's not on. Is there even there's no criminal thing. There's no, and I'm not saying, I don't know what the guy did,
right. Or didn't do, but like, right. But there's people who have done worse things that still get to monetize their YouTube channels. And a lot of them have been to Epstein Island. So it comes down to when there's will and political will and a coordinated effort by the powers that be to attack someone. Yeah,
that's the scary thing. And they were just Kurt Metzger was talking about this on Jimmy Dore yesterday. Like I think he said something like Hillary Clinton has been accused of killing somebody, like murder, like, but we're not banning Hillary Clinton because of an accusation or something like that. And that's that might be an out there one, but like you said, there's plenty of examples of people that have been involved in terrible things or at least accused of terrible things, and they're not getting the treatment that Russell Brand is. So to me, that's clearly because of the things he says and that they want to shut him up.
Yeah.
What other reason would there be for that difference in treatment,
It's the standard that's the issue that like the powers that be are using to attack this guy. And
like Joe Biden has a sexual assault accuser, we're not kicking him off platforms.
Yeah, we probably should.
Well, he's not forming coherent sentences anyway. So
I was going to say he's good at falling off platforms on his own, but I thought that'd be too much of a dad joke. Too much of like a boomer conservative dad joke. Yeah. I can send that to like Fox News or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a Gutfeld joke.
It is a Gutfeld joke. It's good.
Oh no, I don't want to be thinking in that. No, it's okay. Cool. I feel like we've like covered a fair amount, and I've gotten a lot of your inspirations, a few of them, and your comedy, and the people of Watertown, Connecticut, and the
Watertown,
Armenian.
Massachusetts.
Oh shit! I think there is a Watertown, Connecticut. There's a Watertown. Every state in New England has a Watertown.
Yeah, there's a Watertown, New York too.
There you go. What the hell was I going to say? Oh yeah, no, just good stuff all around, certainly. Tell me any more if you want to about highlights in comedy over the years, things that jump out at you, perhaps.
I don't know, man. I've only really done it consistently for like 3.5 years. So I'm just interested in the process of getting better at it. That's all I really care about. Honestly, if I never go anywhere with it or succeed, I don't really give a shit. I just like the process of working on stand up and trying to get better. Highlights? I don't know. I mean, I've done shows at the Comedy Store. That's awesome. I've what else? I don't know. I did Kill Tony a couple times. That was funny. I don't know. I did it like a year into comedy. And it was just it's interesting, I mean,
you have the right attitude. I was going to say, like, certainly, because whether it's comedy or whether it's any craft, it's like, I keep hearing it over and over again, whether you're watching, I'm big into sports and stuff. I actually watched, Tom Brady was on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. Are you familiar with him or not Tom Brady, but Patrick Bet-David? Yeah. Like he did like an hour, 40 plus minute, like this long form, in like I was like in a public event, like an interview. And obviously Tom Brady is someone who dives into the process, and like just to hear more and more people like talk about that and see their success, like makes me think that I think you're on the right path. Like, and I'm excited.
That's all that really matters.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, man.
It's the only reason to do it, like, is to, if you enjoy the process of doing it. Like, there's some Kobe Bryant quote where he talks about, like, whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter because either way you have to get up the next day and do it all over again. Like that's what I enjoy doing, is the process of doing it. And I don't have any illusions that I'll ever get anywhere with it other than just enjoying the process of doing it. And yeah, I think that is the right attitude too. Because why do it for any other reason?
Good stuff. And like I was saying, I'm excited to see where the journey takes you. And I'm a huge fan, of course. Anything else you think we should cover or talk about or that I missed? I got one or two more questions, but anything else about your journey you think?
I don't think so, man. I don't know. Yeah, follow me online at Chris G. Keene. I do shows in LA a lot. I have shows coming up at the Comedy Store in October and some other places around town.
Yeah, we're cooking up something too. I'll talk about that on my intro and outro and all that stuff and give links and whatnot to my show as well. Ghosts, aliens. Do you believe in these things? Have you had any personal experiences with either?
Ghosts or aliens, you said?
Yeah.
I definitely believe. I don't even know how it's a question if aliens exist. Like, how can that even be? Like, to me, it's obvious that aliens exist. I mean, right? I mean, the universe is too big for there to be nothing out there.
That's the argument that I tend to make, but it's not entirely. Like, we don't know. I mean, they've probably been here, but I guess.
I don't know if they've been here. I mean, I hope they have, but even if they haven't been here, they're out there somewhere. Like,
but you haven't had personal experiences with them or UFOs.
No personal experience. Unfortunately, no. I hope they come get me, man. I don't want to be here, so please abduct me. I would like to not be here.
Yeah, but what makes you think they're going to take you somewhere better? You're willing to take that chance.
Can it really get worse? Yeah, exactly.
They're going to take you. You know where they'll take you? They'll take you to their planet, and it's just going to be like an average suburb. They'd be like, here's your new home, sir. And it just looks like a basic suburb. And you're like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, I'd love that at this point in life. When I was a kid, I was like, I'm getting out of here, man. You know, I'm going to go make something of myself. Then you grow up and you're like, you know what? I think I'd rather just be in the suburb and be left alone.
Right. I need to just move back to the suburbs and build the garden, learn to garden or something like that and grow my own potatoes and be as off the grid as possible is probably the wise thing to do in this crazy world. What about ghosts? You believe in those? Seeing any of those around?
I don't not believe in ghosts. I don't know what to think. I'm agnostic, so I just feel like there's no way to know anything about any of that. I don't not believe in them, but I can't say I believe in them. I don't know what to think.
Do you think that I've never asked anyone else this, I don't think, but do you think you're a potential candidate to be haunted, ripe for a haunting and for any reason?
I do worry about that. I have worried about that before. Yeah.
Do you have? Well, the reason I asked that is because I think like people who have like unresolved, some kind of unresolved issues either with themselves or their past or people from their past who especially may not be alive. Like, it seems like those people would be most likely to be or need to be punished or something. I don't know.
I always feel that I deserve to be punished, Adam. So
you're not Jewish, are you? There's a follow-up question.
I'm not Jewish. No, I'm Armenian and English and Norwegian.
Right.
Was that a Jewish thing to say? Is that why?
Well, the reason I bring it up is because Yom Kippur is on Monday, and that's the Jewish Day of Atonement where you fast to atone for all your sins. So maybe maybe you could try it, and you'll feel better about yourself.
Yeah, maybe I should convert. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I feel like Armenians and Jewish people are similar in a lot of ways. But.
Yeah, it's called a lot of, like they say it about Italians and even like black families a lot. It's because you have like an intense mom. It's like really what it comes down to. It's like you're an Italian mom, a black mom, a Jewish mom. Like all moms are the same, really. Most people are the same. It's just, like we talked about the powers that be, the divide and conquer. But on that note, we could keep going. I'm sure I appreciate your time. You don't have to hang up at the very end of this. It's just the end of the podcast, obviously. But thank you again, Chris, and looking forward to seeing you do more stand-up soon.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
You got to talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Peace. So there you have it. Episode 145 with Chris Keene. That was so much fun. I thank Chris for his time. He really is one of my favorite comedians out there, and I'm looking forward to him doing my show soon. That's October 21st, adamchoit.com or sanctuary.com, sanctuarycomedy.com will get you the tickets and all the info about the show there. For more about this podcast, at People We Love Podcast on Instagram, peoplewelove.podcast.com. I'm at Adam Choid on Instagram and Twitter, adamchoid.com, again, for all my personal stuff. And that will link you to the comedy show info as well. But I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.